Okay, thank you everyone for staying tuned once again. We are still admitting people into the webinar, and at exactly 8:03, which is right now, we'll be beginning. So while other people are still being admitted into the webinar, I'll quickly give a rundown of the outline of our agenda tonight. So we'll be getting information on the general conduct of the Nigeria TKD Open 2024. We'll be getting more information also on the officiating team and competition rules especially. Would also be having important information on our insurance program, as well as information on accommodation, which everyone has been asking about. Would also share some more information on media, as well as information regarding the use of the KPNP scoring system. So once more, you're all welcome to this meeting. My name is Abiodun, and I am moderating this meeting tonight. In this meeting, we have members of the Nigeria Taekwondo Advancement Initiative team members, as well as an important personality that's a resource person in this meeting today, who would provide information regarding the competition rules. At exactly 8:05, we'll begin the first information session. Please stay tuned. For those team managers who are in this call, please ensure that athletes from your team are part of this meeting. This meeting is open to athletes, coaches, officials, volunteers, because information on every aspect of the upcoming event will be shared. Thank you once again. By my time, it's exactly 8:05. Hence, we'll be beginning the first item on the agenda, which is information on general conduct of Nigeria TKD Open 2024. This session would be anchored by my friend Santos, and I'll be handing over the microphone to him right about now. Thank you.
Thanks, Gordon, and it's also good to see everyone who has already joined. Good evening, thank you for joining. I think I'll go straight right into it. But here to speak more specifically about the entire event, and we'll begin to take things right from how do you say registration, arrival, and all that. I believe that the logic of registration in itself needs no reintroduction because I mean we've come this far because we've registered mostly. And the very next matter would be the matter of arrivals. Now it's within the discretion of the players and the teams to arrive, when they would like to. So I wouldn't exactly say you must arrive at this particular day, but you must be available for accreditation and your way in on the 22nd of August. So accreditation will be happening, and accreditation is pretty much in reality already done by the mere fact that you've registered. So it's mostly to verify the person is here and to also provide you with your accreditation card with which you would use throughout the competition for access to competition area, spectators area, and every other um outlet that would matter. I mean, the warm-up area and all of that. Keep in mind that you would not be allowed to, you know, walk directly into the hall or things like that without accreditation. As a matter of fact, there'll be lots of restriction on movement that's unnecessary, but that's the relevance of having your accreditation card. And those will begin by 8:30 and happen all through the day on the 22nd up till around 3 p.m. We would, for the referees, they would be having their sessions, but weigh-in would begin around 3 p.m. and should end around 6 p.m. maximum. So anyone who's not yet weighed in at that time would have a concern because exactly when that is done, by 7 p.m., we're looking to have released the fight chat. As a matter of fact, I think that I have made a mistake because we are meant to release the fight chat by 6 p.m. So we would be done with weighing by 5 p.m. And after weighing is done, we'll have a technical session to just debrief a few or discuss with a few selected technical people on the logic of the rankings that will be used based on confirmation on who has weighed in and who has not. We can't do anything as regards your rankings, except you're already weighed in, which is why you would see that there's nothing like any ranking on this or seeding right now here because it makes no sense to seed anyone and then they don't make their weight. So immediately after that's done by 5, if the person who has not made his weight by 5, you might as well just consider themselves disqualified and then we will take those who have been weighed in. It will automatically be reflected by smooth comp. Actually, the entire weighing system is also seamless and within smooth comp. So it would also, just let us know exactly how many people we have who are now weighed in. And those are the people who then will be eligible for for seeding. So I'll take that again. Accreditation would end 3 p.m. I mean, it's officially 2:45, but we'll just say 3 p.m. The weighing is from 3 to 5. Technical meeting follows immediately after that, and then we automatically do the brackets. Now, keep in mind that when we automatically do the brackets and they go live on your smooth comp tournament area, you would then all find the charts immediately automatically placed there. So it means that from 6 p.m., once we discuss and finalize each weight category, we do not expect to have a flawless ranking system because it is impossible to have a flawless ranking system at the moment because there's none. The things that would be highly, and this is something you must keep in mind, right? Things that would be highly considered for the rankings would be first things first is that we are very aware that all ranks were zeroed by June. But we also understand that many of our players haven't then competed after June internationally. And so we are going to keep the logic of the rankings that were as at May. That's the WTF rankings now, not the Nigerian rankings. So first things first is WTF rankings. You're seeded based on how well you're doing on your own WTF rankings. The next best thing is then Nigerian rankings, right? And side by side, slight preference for players coming from outside of the country as well. Now, Nigerian ranking comes first. Then the preferential treatment then follows for, in international players to spread them out. But it's very unlikely that that would ever be used because when you're seeding 8 people in a weight or seeding 16, because we're looking to do around 50% seeding maximum. When you're doing that, it's very unlikely that by the time you do international and do Nigerian seeding, you won't already have filled up those slots. Because, of course, we have a tentative Nigerian ranking system. I mean, with its loopholes, but still something we can work around, as it were, while we look to build something new for, for the country. So yeah, I would take it from beginning again. And keep in mind that those of you who are watching on Zoom, because I also understand and I'm seeing that many other people are watching through YouTube Live. So those on YouTube live stream, we won't be able to see your questions, but um, those on Zoom, you would find on your phone here that there's a Q and A part, not the chat box, Q and A part. That's the part where you can drop your questions as the conversations are going on. We'll be picking them up and responding to them. So feel free to drop your questions there. Let us make them logical questions so that, and not questions that are addressing things that we've already addressed so that we can move with time. But don't feel hurried as well because the purpose of this meeting is to make sure that we all have an exhaustive conversation and everyone understands. So let me take a recap for those who have just joined again. Arrival and accreditation, August 22nd. Arrival and accreditation can begin from 8:30 a.m. From 8:30 a.m., we'll begin to give you your accreditation cards if you are around. We would not have anything against you if you come by 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. is what I'm trying to say. Um, we would have cards for athletes and for coaches and for volunteers as well. Now, accreditation is going to end by exactly 3 p.m. But of course, there will be an understanding for those who come after that because it's not like the accreditation is going to decide whether or not, you know, a lot happens. But if you are there for your way in, naturally, you would have done your accreditation because we'll use that card to weigh you in. So weigh-in is from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Immediately after 5 p.m., we have we make a use of those who have weighed in, and then with our technical team, which will involve members of Nigeria Taekwondo and some selected members from the NTF as well, we would share with you what would be the seeding numbers for this competition based on these rules, which I have mentioned, which is international rankings from May 30th, local Nigerian rankings, and then um, the third layer would be consideration for international players and then consideration for host team. For the last two, it's very unlikely you use them, like I said, because we're doing 50% seeding. But it is very important to always just prepare for that reality where that can happen. So with that in mind, yeah, so with that in mind, I would respond to the first question that I already found on Q&A, which is a very important question. Could you please clarify if the competition awards NTF or WTF ranking points? The competition ranks you with WTF ranking points because it is sanctioned by, sorry, with NTF ranking points because it is sanctioned by the NTF. When a competition becomes G-rated, like a G1, a G2, those ones are those that the competitions that give you WT ranking points. And while we are working very hard to make, I mean, the entire purpose of this competition this month I mean in August rather, is to show a proof of concept so that this time next year, hopefully, or in 2 years, but most likely next year, we can say that we have a G-rated event in Nigeria. So that is that about that question. As I've said, there will be designated areas for spectators, and there'll be areas that will be prohibited without your accreditation tags or a valid reason to come in. I want to enjoin us and encourage us to try and be of our best behavior, you know, especially, when volunteers tell you that you can't be here or can't not be here. Let us try and act like, you know, this is an international event, which it is. It's an opportunity for us to show that we can manage the standards that we desire and request for. So I'm also enjoining athletes to be of their best behavior, especially about areas that you're allowed to be and areas that you're not allowed to be. Now for day one, day one, all fights that would lead you to the quarterfinals would happen. So in the situation where you have 32 players, as featherweight and male, flyweight male, flyweight female, and maybe lightweight male are most likely going to have, you would be fighting twice on day one. And when you're done with that, that's the end of your day. You would then, be allowed to go rest and whatever for day two. Quarterfinals, semi-final, and finals would happen on day two. So I want that to sink in a bit. Quarterfinals, semi-finals, and finals will happen on day two. Finals will begin by 4:05 on day two. The reason we're having this meeting today, one of the reasons we're having this meeting today is for us to clarify all the things that you can do and the things you can't do, so that we have a seamless competition that follows the time. If if you're told 8 a.m., it is going to be 8 a.m. If your fight is 8:06, we will try to make it 8:06. And you'll find out that with the smooth comp system, you would always know when your own specific fight is tentatively built for. The specific time, you could see 12:31, 12:35. Of course, as with most international events, it can change over time, but you will always know. Even we are looking to have, the upcoming 6 matches live on Smart Comp. You would always know the next 6 fights. In the warm-up areas, we'll potentially have a screen there that's showing you the next 6 fights, so that even if you're in the warm-up area and you're not in the hall, you know when it's time. So there's nobody shouting names up and down for anyone. You would just be directed properly on when you can and when you can't um, compete. All the fights from day one to day two will be live streamed on our website using SmoothCom. We will try to endeavor to make sure everything stays um, seamless. We'll try to make sure the internet moves well. And this is to ensure that everyone who competes at the competition will be able to go back with a video of themselves competing, with a very high level, graphics, top standard packaging and things like that. I think that we all agree that we just need little details like that to make our competition slightly, higher than expected. Now, for the finals, of course, it will be live streamed from 4:05, but the live stream for that one would then be on DSTV and Star Times and also on our website. And of course, we know that this is one way we can package ourselves. I mean, for those of you who know me personally, you know that this for us is us just saying that we want to package Niger Taekwondo. We want to give a very good impression externally. We want to bring in sponsors and partners who would um, we want to bring in sponsors and partners who would, improve the the level of taekwondo. And I'm sure you guys saw with excitement that you guys were excited when we had people like Pop Cola and Co coming to support our event. Of course, this support will come in the form of products that they have for our players, for our guests, etc. We have confirmation from some others, which you would find out over the next few days as well. But the point is, we want to package ourselves. So we are also calling on the athletes to be a part of that packaging. You have to be well behaved in your side coaching. You know, we don't expect anyone to be dramatic and misbehave and then make us look unprofessional. This is why we're having this session. This is why we are going through the rules as well as Abiodun would do. Like we want you to know what you can protest about. I saw, for example, in Mina, a couple of side coaches who clearly didn't really know what the recent rules were, but they were angry, like they were being cheated. You know, so it's important that we know what can you protest for, when can you do that, and how can you do it. You know, it helps us learn. Here, it's a local event, so to speak, like it's us in West Africa, but we're also going to be competing in internationally, as in Nigerian players are going to be competing internationally even more often from next year. That one I can assure you of. So we don't want to go there as a to like a going there for tourism. We want you to go there and sit and feel among, in the sense that you know what you're protesting about when you're protesting about not looking as a matter. We've had such problems even internationally when it's at the venue that some Nigerian players will understand that this can't be done and this should be done. As you already know, we'll be using the KPMP scoring system. And we're excited about that because, it's not an opportunity that many Nigerian athletes have had before now. It's not an opportunity that we've had to use the system and experience it. So it's going to be exciting for you. I know there's for many who have not used it, or for those who have used it just once, or there are lots of postulations. Oh, you have to bend your leg like this to use it. Oh, this one is manual. You have to kick very hard. You have to. There are different rumors and there are different views. Like personally, as an individual, when I was competing, I always preferred to use KPMP. There were some others who preferred to use Dado. I think that I can't tell you which is which, but you'll find out when you compete. The big question, which has bothered many of you, is, oh, but we would love to use KPMP, but we don't have that socks. I mean, of course, we thought about that. And so we would make provision for athletes to have socks to use. When you come in with your tag, when you're getting dressed, you use the socks for your fight. When you're coming out, we take the socks. you receive your tag back. For those who competed in 2021, or rather 2011, when Dado was used in Nigeria for the very first time. You would remember that was the process we used. We would go to the dressing area, they would wear the socks for us. And then when we're done fighting, we remove the socks then. Of course, in the future, we know that many of the athletes will begin to have theirs. But this is the very first time, so we can't expect that everyone will have access to that. But this does not mean that you shouldn't treat the socks well, or we will not be held liable if you damage it while competing. So we should also keep that in mind. And for those who want to buy, I'm sure that there will be information for that as well very soon on the channel. I think Master Postalin also helps people get theirs. So there's that. I think that this is mostly a run through of things. And we'll take a few questions before we then move into the information on officiating and the rules and get into the small details. So there's a Q&A slot somewhere on for those on Zoom, you'll find the Q&A area. Just type your questions in. For those on YouTube, unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to do so, but please stay with us and we'll read out the questions, that are on Zoom as well. Right. So there's a very good question that's already been asked here, and I think that I should have mentioned that because I apparently even missed that. There would be um random weigh-ins. So the question here is, please, would there be an official weigh-in and how many trials? Weigh-in is 3 to 5. You would have 2 trials to make your weight. So it is imperative that as an athlete, you get yourself in your weight before 3 p.m. and not hope for multiple trials after. But yeah, 2 trials within your time of 3 to 5. There's nothing like unofficial weighing. It's not, I mean, it's not even a thing, you know. Weighing is 3 to 5. If you if you can't make it the first time, we hope that you make it the second time. But then there'll be random weighing on day one and there'll be random weighing on day two. This is to ensure that there's fairness and people who fought in day one don't just shoot up and become beasts against their own fellow athletes. I mean, some people would say, oh, but why would I fight day one and then I'll fight day two? And I understand because some people would worry that, look, I could get injured or I could get, a knock or something. But unfortunately, there's not much that can be done about that. This is why we hope that all fights end by 6 p.m. and there's enough time for recovery. Again, this is not an this is not a process that is not within the statutes of the WT. The World Championship follows this method. I think the Grand Prix finals as well follows the same method. So we are not doing anything that is not within WT rules. When you say fight day one and fight day two, it's actually done internationally. We will be using 2 cuts until the finals, when we use just 1 cut for the final for the DSTV stream. So for day one, it's 2 cuts. For day two, it's 2 cuts for the quarterfinals and the semifinals. But from four, when we have the finals, it's then 1 cut for the final, which is, a question from Abdullah Adegoke. And the previous question was from an anonymous attendee. So we would move right over to Abiodun. Happy to share the screen when he's ready to begin to speak about the officiating session. But if you have any further questions on the things I have mentioned, again, feel free to type into the Q&A box and we'll still attend to it. For those of us on YouTube, I would have said drop a comment on YouTube, but it's not also supported. I think that the very best option would be to maybe send a message to the athletes WhatsApp group or send the message to someone on the athletes WhatsApp group, or would help you post it in the Q&A so that we can see it and respond to it. This is going to be the only opportunity that would have to clean up all these little details. So yes, over to you, Abiodun. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Santos, for that very enlightening session. Next, we'll be talking on information regarding officiating and competition rules. Now, officials will be drawn from a pool of international, national, and state referees. Regarding international referees, every country that has registered more than 2 athletes would be eligible to come with a referee. So for countries that reach out regarding having a referee attached to the team, would have referees from these countries. So in addition to our national referees and referees from states. On the 22nd of August, between 10 a.m. and 12 noon, there will be a free referee / coaches refresher seminar, while from 12:30 on that same day to 2 p.m., the invited referees would have a refresher hand signal training. Now, this is relating to the general conduct of the competition. It will be using single elimination contest and the best of 3 system. So winners, as we know already, depending on the winners of the first and second round, then that will determine if there will be a third round, as we already know. The match contest will be 2 minutes per round or as deemed fit. But if there's going to be any slight change in the duration, we will inform everyone ahead. But we anticipate that there would not be changes in the match time per round. Now, importantly, we assume that a lot of us are already familiar with the prohibited acts, but it's still important to address this area, especially since we're having a pool of different athletes, including the very experienced athletes and athletes that are just coming into the national scene. So we'll quickly have a rundown through the prohibited acts. Okay, Santos would share a live screen right now. Okay, so we're going through this very quickly. So we already know that the following acts are classified as prohibited acts, such as crossing the boundary line, falling down, avoiding or delaying the match, grabbing, or pushing the opponent. Regarding pushing the opponent, I am sure we know the rules relating to that. So if you push the opponent at the boundary line, for example, you get a gambjon for pushing, and the person that crosses the boundary line would not get a gam zone for crossing the boundary line. If you push within the contest area and it's a sharp push with an intent to not obstruct your opponent, then you would not get a gam zone for pushing. I'm sure we are aware of the technicalities around this. If you have questions on this, we can raise, and then because of time, would only be looking at aspects where there are usually some kind of confusion. Or if you have questions, you could also raise. Then lifting the leg to block, cut kick, monkey kick, kicking the opponent's leg to impede the opponent's attack, kicking below the waist, pumping, that is lifting the leg above the waist to kick the air for 4 times or more. So you can do 1, 2, 3, but the 4th time you get a gam jump. Lifting a leg or kicking in the air for more than 3 seconds to impede the opponent's potential attacking movements. Attacking the opponent after cardio. Attacking a fallen opponent. Punching the fist. That's hitting the opponent's head with your hand. Monkey kick, that's attacking the trunk PSS with the side or bottom of the foot in clinch position. Attacking the back of the head of the PSS in clinch position. So I'm sure we're aware of all these, and they are all prohibited acts that is punishable by a gam jump penalty. The following misconducts of either the contestant or the coach are also prohibited, such as not complying with the referee's command or decision, inappropriate protesting behavior to officials' decision, inappropriate attempts to disturb or influence the outcome of the match. So we want full standard conduct. We don't want unruly behaviors, for example. So all this, we know that they are prohibited acts. So when a coach or contestant commits excessive misconduct and does not follow the referee's command, the referee may declare a sanction request by raising a yellow card. And we anticipate that we will not get to this stage where a yellow card would have to be given to an athlete or a coach. And we know there are situations where an athlete can get 2 gam jumps immediately, So if you commit a gam jump penalty and then probably you attack after cardio, for example, So we have situations where an athlete can get more than 1 gam jump. We're going to address that if a question arises on that. So at the end of, because we're using best of 3 system, so if a contestant receives 5 gam jumps, that means that you have lost that round. So no matter whatever score you are leading with, if you get 5 gam jump, you have lost that particular round. I mean, you have to come for the next round if it's not the second round, for example. Also, we need to also emphasize that there will be points gap. So there's points gap of 12, except in the semifinals and finals. So in the semifinals and finals, there will not be point gap. Now, regarding the use of yellow card, for example, which we anticipate that we will not get to, if the matter is being investigated and the athlete or the coach is found guilty of the particular action, then one could actually be banned from competing on our events for a period of time. So we should try to ensure utmost modest conducts in everything we do. So with that, let's look at video replay. Now we're going to be using the instant video replay. So if there is a video replay, there would actually be an actual video replay, that's fish video replay. So coaches should know when you can request for a video replay and when you cannot request for a video replay. For example, there are certain requests for gamjun against your opponent that you can protest for, and there are certain ones you cannot protest for. So, for example, if the opponent kicks below the waist, you cannot raise your card and request that the referee should give gamjun to the opponent for kicking below the waist. They will seize your card automatically because the coach cannot request for kick below the waist. So the gamjun against your opponent, there are usually only 4 situations where you can request for that, for example. So you can only request for if the opponent's athlete fell down, crossed the boundary line, kicking after Kalil, or kicking a fallen opponent. Those are the only 4 situations where you can ask the referee to give a gamjun to the opponent. So in any other situation apart from those 4 situations, if you raise your card and ask the referee to give a gamjun to the opponent, the referee will automatically seize your card. So sometimes you wonder why your card has been seized, and you think that probably there is one issue or the other, but sometimes it's the coach not knowing what to protest for and what not to protest for. So that is why it's important, if you are available or if you are around during the referee refresher seminar that would hold on the arrival day, you could join so that you would get more familiar with this, especially if you are going to be coaching. And regarding coaches, please, if you are going to be coming as a seconder or as a coach, please, you have to put on covered shoes, maybe canvas or something. So no slippers, no palms. So please, we want to ensure proper dressing following international standards. So please take note of that. Without proper dressing from the coach, even if you are putting on your tag, you would not be allowed into the competition arena. So please take note of that. So regarding IVR again, let me just quickly have a rundown of some of the things. So in case there's an objection to a judgment of the refereeing officials during the protest, the coach of a team can make a request to the center referee for an immediate review of the video replay. The coach can only request video replay for the following. 1, penalties against the opponent. I have just mentioned that for instances of falling down or crossing the boundary line or attacking the opponent after Kalil or attacking the fallen opponent. So apart from these 4 penalties against the opponent, you cannot request for any other penalty, that's any gamjo against the opponent. You can request for a technical point. So if there was a duchagi and instead of 4 points, 2 points was scored, you can raise your card and ask for 2 additional points. They'll check and be sure that it was a proper duchagi, and if it is, then they would record it. Any penalty against own contestant. So if your own contestant commits a gamjo penalty, you could request for that. And I want to imagine that coaches would most likely not request for that. any mechanical malfunction on or error in time management. Yes, so if there's any issue with the scoring system or with the time or anything, you can always protest for that. Regarding that, in case of appeal for PSS mechanical malfunction, the coach may request to the center referee for a testing of the PSS at any time during the second and or the third round. So if the PSS mechanical function is properly working, the coaches shall be forfeited. That means you will lose your card. If you request for testing of the PSS anytime during the second or third round, and they check it and they see that the PSS is working properly, your card will be seized. That's the interpretation of that. As well as this coach's appeal is considered to be a misconduct of coach that gam shall be given to own contestant in accordance with the Article 14.4. So please, that is why it's important for you to take note of how you protest that the sensor is not working properly. Except you are extremely sure that it is not working, then you can protest during the second round or the third round. If a referee gives a gam for a prohibited act for an action that was called on the PSS, and the referee forgot to invalidate the point, that means to remove the points. So let's say the athlete grabbed and did headshot and 3 points entered, and then the center referee gives gam for the athlete or to the athlete for grabbing, but the center referee forgot to remove that 3 points. You can raise your card and ask that the points be validated. Now, wrong identification of fist attacking contest by the judge. So that simply means that if your athlete punches and one of the judges pressed to score the punch and you saw it, and the other judge also pressed to score, but instead of pressing for your athlete, the other judge pressed for the other athlete, and you saw it. So on the TV screen there, you saw two signs of punch that came up, one from your side, one from the other side, and you are sure that the other opponent did not punch. You can raise your card and say, it was my athlete that punched, and one of the judges mistakenly pressed for the other athlete. So they'll check it and it's valid, and then they would add your punch. Any head kick that is not scored, you can raise your card. So no matter how slight the leg touch the head guard, you can raise your card and check.
Okay, I think Abiodun dropped off briefly, but I'll continue. Must have gotten a phone call or something. Um, and I'll just maybe reference the questions that were already being asked online. Idris had asked if it's only a registered coach that is allowed to second an athlete. Quick answer to that is yes. But the second answer underneath that question and response is that um, the second answer on that in that response is that each team will also have one or two athletes whom we would allow to get accreditation as coaches. This is because we know that it is possible that some teams will not come with an explicit coach, or it is possible that your coach can be on the other court at the same time that one of your own teammates are fighting. But every rules of dressing and all of that would also apply to the athlete at the time. So he would see you as a coach for that moment. And so you must dress appropriately. For the person asking, how do we join the athletes group? We would share with you a link, but although I would recommend that all information will also be shared on the channel. So if you're already on the channel, you would get everything. But if it's for the purpose of asking questions here, like you mentioned, we'll also share both links on the chat box at some point today. So the links to both groups. Um, the other question. Okay, so I think IK, your question is already responded to. Mufioluwa, you have asked Abe to refresh on Bigam jams again, which we will do at some point. On the acts that would not be acceptable, or the modern rules on Gam jams. We would also be sharing the document with you as well through the channel as well, so that you can read it at your own time and not get overwhelmed by all this information overload that is happening right now, because I'm sure that we have said too many things. Abiodun, you may continue while we wait for Tosaline, who's also going to join us at some point to take some of these questions forward. Yeah, over to you, Abiodun.
All right, thank you very much. And so when Masato Darlene comes up, and that's very shortly, she would take most of these questions regarding the competition rules. So please keep dropping your questions on the Q&A session, and would address all of them. So I was trying to talk about the IVR and what you can protest for and what you cannot protest for. So if your protest is successful, your card will be returned to you as you know already, and the action for which you protest for will be acted upon. If at the end of a particular match, you as a coach are not satisfied with the result of the maybe a protest or something, and you have evidence for it, you could approach the competition supervisory board regarding that match immediately, and the issue would be addressed. Although you are supposed to pay a particular protest fee, and then an investigation would be taken immediately on the particular match. And if you actually end up winning the result of that investigation, then a resolution will be made, and uh, which will be in your favor. So please take note of that. Regarding situations where an athlete maybe does a prohibited act, and then the other athlete is unable to continue the match due to a prohibited act by the opponent, which is declared, which is visible by a GAM zone. So if a GAM zone is given, that means it is declared as a prohibited act. So if the opponent cannot continue due to that, then definitely the person who committed that Gamjun act would definitely lose that match. But that opponent that also could not continue wins the match, but cannot continue to the next round. So if, for example, it's the semi-finals, then the person cannot go into the finals. And in fact, according to the rules, the person would not be able to compete in the next couple of events after that particular event, because assume that the person is not fit. Maybe the person is ill or injured, so to say. And talking about injury, we would have full medical facilities on ground for this event. So, but at the same time, we implore teams to be fully kitted. So your shin guards, your hand guards, gloves, groin guards, please be fully kitted, because and don't just rely on the fact that they'll be medical, because athletes from everywhere are coming. So uh, thank you very much. I'm trying to see if there are any other questions that could quickly be taken, pending the time that Master Tozale will be set to continue from here. Someone mentioned that would there be any doping check? Okay, we are working on that, and information on that would be released within 1 week before the event. But we advise that because of one reason or the other, please don't do things that is against the law. Well, you don't have to take, uh, you don't have to do substance abuse because you want to win an event, or you want to win uh, a competition. So please, we are encouraging healthy competitions. We're encouraging healthy lifestyles, and please stay away from anything incriminating. Stay away from anything unhealthy. It's not just because you'll be caught, but it's really because it's all about your health and the health of your fellow competition. Let's try and ensure fair play in everything we do. Thank you very much. So, Master Tozalen would take the Gamjo penalties once more as soon as she comes up. Regarding weighing, there will be random weighing on the competition day. So, depending on the number of athletes, there's usually WT standard number of athletes that would be that will take part in random weighing, that were randomly selected. For in case the number of athletes are between 17 and 32, for example, 6 athletes would be randomly selected for random weighing on the competition day. If the number of athletes registered for that weight are between 9 and 16, 4 athletes will be selected randomly on the competition day for random weighing. If the number of athletes are between 4 and 8, 2 athletes will be selected randomly on the competition day. And random weighing will take place at a maximum of 30 minutes before the start of the competition. So please take note that even after you have made your weight on the first day, don't go and eat everything and then shoot up, because if you're automatically selected for random weighing and you fail it, then you're out. So although we understand that random weighing will be conducted with about 5% tolerance of the contestant's weight category. So if you are still within 5% of the extreme of that category over, then you are still uh, we are still good. But anything beyond that, you have failed the random way. So please take note of that. So uh, we will. So at the moment, we will uh, take a break on the referee and competition rules while we'll address some other areas, and then we'll return to continue with the competition rules while we introduce our resource person, Masatos Dalen, who would be taking us quickly again on the uh, prohibited acts and Gamgee penalties, and then we'll be answering some questions that may arise. So, still on the lineup of the agenda for tonight, we have some information regarding accommodation, which we'll be sharing very quickly, and any other information. So please stay tuned for more information.
All right, thank you very much, Abiodun. I see a question from Tofumi. I think that like he already mentioned, the prohibited acts will be addressed. So you would get a response on that. I also then see a question from Eunice, who's asking how will seeding be done, looking at the fact it's an international open. Well, we had addressed that previously, but I'll go through it over again. There'll be several factors that will determine the level to which a person can be seated and the height at which a person can be seated. And the very first one would be, of course, the WT rankings. But as we said, because we know and we are going to be considerate for our international players, the rankings were wiped off at June 1st. We will, for the purpose of this competition, still reference the rankings at the end of May. Um, so whatever points you had at May would be what would be considered. We would then consider the local NTF rankings after that, and we would also consider the champions coming from the other countries as well, who may not have, whom we may not have very well clear clarity on their local rankings. So, I mean, there's some things that are common knowledge as regards some of the players coming in. So the BTF ranking comes first, NTF ranking follows, and then there's consideration for the hosts and the international players. So without, much further ado, I believe that we now have Masato Salim who's joined the call. So I think if, because if you won't be sharing the screen, I could share the the screen, but please go ahead and take us through the conversation. Welcome again. Thank you for joining. There's a myriad of questions that will be waiting for you. I'm not even jealous of you right now, but thank you and welcome.
No, we are unable to hear you. We are hearing very faintly.
Is it better now?
Yes,
Is it better now?
perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you very much. I really want to apologize for coming in late. Like, anyways, I'm here and I'm happy I'm here with you guys. You need to know, and I want to putting you all through the competition rules, the WT competition rules, and I would like to also share a few things just in case you had missed any, and then I will take the questions so you will understand clearly, and I will also understand what you need. Can I now go on, please? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Please go
Okay.
ahead. Thank you.
Okay. The WTA competition guidelines and rules for coaches and athletes. Just to take us through the whole stuff. For this Nigeria Open, International Open, we'll be doing the best of three system, and you all already know how everything goes. The first round, the best of three system, like once you have won the two rounds, you are the winner of the game, and then you know every round has a winner, and then there is a point gap of 12 point gap. We already know this. It's just to put us through, you know, through this whole thing. And for every round that has a gamju, 5 gamju, the round as the winner of that round is the first person that gets a gamju is the loser of the round. So you go to the next round. That means the winner for the particular round is choosing already. And for the best of three system, like I just explained, 12 point gap, and the point gap applies at any time during the rounds, and then the point gap does not apply during semifinals and finals, which we already know in the senior category. For junior category, no point gap, and each I have put it up before. And when if we have like for instance, because I said each round must have a winner, for you to ascertain a winner when there is a draw, like nobody has scored any point, no one has done anything, like no gamju, no penalty whatsoever, and it now calls for superiority. So these are the criteria for superiority: total points scored by turning point, and you know what we mean by turning or spinning point or spinning kicks. So you are either winning by G or you are winning by spin kick, which is the 5 points, 4 point or 5 points. So whoever has the highest point, the turning point, like both of them are scored, now have to look into the next one, which is the high value technique. What is the high value technique? You have the head kick, then the head kick, which is the 3 points, which is the highest value, then going to down to the body kick, which has two, and then the punch, which is one. So you have to check by this criteria: who scored more. The person who has who scored the head becomes the winner if the other party didn't. Or even if both of them scored heads, you have to check who scored more heads. So by this, you can now determine, and then you determine the winner. So let's assume the both party has still draws in this this match, you go to the next one, which is the heat level. The heat level is the person who has more heat level, and from this you can determine total score point by the register hits. The computer will automatically, the system will automatically and they cannot still be determined, the winner cannot still be determined by these three factors. Then you go to the last one, which is the superiority. So, and the superiority, you also have a criteria as a which the coaches and the athletes should also know, because most times when it comes to superiority level, you cannot determine. So if you're watching your system as an athlete and you see that you have not scored anything, or the heat level has not gone up, or nothing has happened, and both of you are equal, it is advisable, and it's very advisable that you kick more, try to kick more, try to do more of attacking technique. Don't wait for your opponent to start kicking at you, or attacking more, because at this point we check, these are the criteria the referees will use in picking the best. And so you cannot come at the end of the match and say you are cheated. So in order for you to avoid any complaint after, so it is advisable that for you to determine the superiority, the athletes would determine by themselves. So by so doing, the first criteria is aggressive match management. That is why I advise keep attacking regardless. When you see that both of you are 0-0, no gamble, no head point, no high value technique, or no turning kick, just be aggressive. The next criteria I would like to look into is the greater number of techniques. So while you are doing all your techniques, if your opponent is always punching, you try to do more kicks, more turning kicks. Even if he doesn't score, nobody cares. At that point, we count how many kicks you have done. You could be doing like 20 and the other person is doing 22. You see that this is very tight. So at this point, the judges are checking, because they are the ones to make these decisions. So the third criteria is more advanced technique, which I had already talked about, and it's also related to the greater number of techniques done. So you can do your complexity of kicks, your 360 and the rest, and then the better competition manner, who manages the competition more. So with these four criteria, they move to the next one. Okay, this is, I just talked about the superiorities. Also, this is how the card looks like. For the referee cards, this is our superiority card. And then if the two judges are to make this decision, this is actually for the referee, but I'm also making it known to the coaches and the referees who are here, because I know most of you are coaches and also referees, or you may be coaches in future. So it's important that you have this at the back of your mind also. So if we are to have but indic back to the old school style anymore. So this time around, while we are using, we'll be sticking with two corner judges, I think, for this Nigeria Open. But if you are doing your other local competition and you feel like the officials are not strong enough, you could use your three judges. So in this case of three judges, only the three judges will make the decision. The referee will just command Wuzi Kirok. So once the referee commands it, the referee counts Hannah, Doset, and then the decision is decided. Then the review jury will now point to the side of the winner. So like I said, it's not until the end of the match. It could happen at the round 1, 2, or 3. So depending on which round you are fighting at the moment. So at that time. So the next one is the prohibited acts, which is very important, because however we try to be perfect in our match management, you cannot afford not to fall short of this. Sometimes, you get tricked into falling into this, and then you get your penalty. It's very important, and you know that for every penalties, you must get a gamju, and gamju offense goes it's an additional 1 point to your opponent. So the first thing is lifting of the lift leg to block. Now, lifting of the leg to block. So when you are lifting up your legs to block, what we always advise is, whenever you're lifting your leg to block, let there be a follow attack. You can't lift your leg and drop. Let there be a follow attack. So it's understandable when you will try to kick and then you follow up with another attack. It makes a lot of sense than just keeping your leg up to impede another person's attack. So with this is a gamju offense, and the referee will not overlook that. They must give this penalty. So the next one we'll be looking into is kicking the opponent's leg to prevent the opponent's kick attack. So when you kick below the leg, you should know this is an offense. So it's just a reminder. It's just a reminder to show that it's a prohibited act. So you don't kick below the belt, you should kick above. So the third one you would want to know is the kicking to aim below the belt. I think it's similar to the kicking the opponent's leg to. Okay, now let me explain so that we don't mix them up. Kicking the opponent's leg to prevent the opponent's kick. So, for instance, someone tries to kick a dolio chagi. Now, your own intention is not to kick; it's just to stop. I don't know if you get this imagination, like the picture. The person tries to kick, and then you try to also kick to stop. So this is impairing also, and it's a prohibited act. So by this, you are impairing your opponent's kick, and so the referee is going to stop the match at this point, and then award the penalty. And then the other one, which is kick below the belt, is just kicking below the belt. So you all know, once you are you kick below the belt, you are also going to be issued a penalty. Now raise the leg above the waist to kick in the air 4 times or more. You know this. 3 times is okay, you drop. If you kick 3 times, 1, 2, 3, you drop, and then you can switch and continue. But once you raise it 4 times, even though the leg touches and scores, you're going to get a warning attack, a penalty, which is a gamju offense, and then whatever point comes after the 4th kick will be invalidated. Then the next one, which is also raise the leg or kicking in the air for more than 3 seconds. You know this already. Once you kick in the air more than 3 seconds, you'll be penalized, which we all know it's a norm. I'm just trying to give us a reminder of what it is. Now, another prohibited act is this monkey kick, attacking the trunk, the PSS with the side of the foot. Now, I will just quickly chip this in. If you are to do this without holding or without having a closure with your opponent, it's okay. It's okay. You can kick, taking your hands off, staying away, and then you do your monkey kick. It's okay. But the moment you go close in a clinch position and you make that kick, whether it's cause or not, you'll be penalized. You'll get a gamju penalty, and then whatever kick comes after will also be invalidated. So you should know this is a gamju offense. The next one is also kicking to the back of the PSS head guard, so headgear in a clenched position. The moment you do this, we have some people who like to do this through chagi. If you do that in a clenched position, you're going to be stopped, you're going to be penalized, and whatever kick comes after, because you are not allowed to kick to the back of the head, the instance. But you can quickly do a quick push and then do your bitlo baka chagi, which is okay, which is allowed. But if you do it in a clenched position, of course, you'll be penalized, and the point that is awarded will be invalidated. And so I'm going to talk about this, which you already know. In the event of a contestant falling down after scoring a turning kick, of course, whether to the chest or to the head, no Gamjo will be awarded, which we already know this. So we are not babies in this game. It's just to set a reminder on that, just in case you forget. Now, in case the kick returns to the head, in case the kick scored to the head does not score, the referee gives a Gamjo for falling down, and the coach asks for a video replay, which is accepted. Now, you should know this. You should know this. The referee must first add, okay, this is for referees, but like I said, it's important that for the coaches or athletes to know about. The referee must first add the 5 point. Then you must always remind the referee to invalidate, like not the athlete. Tell your coach, like with your hand signal, you know how you signal your coaches to do that. Remind them to ask them to remove the Gamju. If you did a turning kick and it's scored after the IVR, just ask them to remove the Gamju, which is not necessary because you did a turning kick. Now, the next one is the push. Pushing, it is allowed as a quick impact, and the fighter must disengage from the opponent. The following acts must be sanctioned. Push the opponent with a prolonged or continuous contact is a Gambial offense. Now, pushing the opponent out of the boundary line. Now, this is where a lot of people get it confused. If you push and you follow up with a kick, you will still get a Gambial offense because pushing is pushing. The rule says the boundary line. If it's getting to the boundary line, it's better to just use your feet. Kick with your legs. The moment you push with your hands and you follow with a kick, you will still get a Ganju for pushing. So I hope this is understood so that you keep this at the back of your mind. Is very important. So it's very tricky. So you have to be very wise when you get to the boundary line. Now, the next one is pushing the opponent in a way that prevents the pushing motion, the kicking motion, or any normal execution of an attacking motion. So this means that, for instance, you are not making any initiation, you are not trying to make any move to kick, or you are not trying to do anything. And then your opponent comes with an apology, let's use that as an example, an axe kick, and then you use your hand to push the person. You will, even if you are disengaging quickly, because you are not making any attack, you will be penalized because that is pushing. That is pushing to prevent the other person kicking motion. So you must have this at the back of your mind that it's very important to avoid getting penalized on that. Now, the next one is pushing with hand on the shoulders or hands on the side of the arms inwards. This is a form of grabbing. So let me explain this. You know, when you grab somebody and you are pinning them close to you, and you think that the referees are not smart to see this. Most referees, they know this, they see this. So you must understand that while doing this, you must disengage almost immediately. When you're grabbing, once the referee does call you, disengage, try to be the one to disengage. The moment you disengage and the other person tries to grab you, the referee will see it immediately. So you must avoid grabbing. The next one is okay, I will explain the pushing again. I think I've already explained this. The other one is when the referee asks you to fight, like Calio, you must separate, and when the referee asks you to separate, you must break immediately in order to avoid receiving a Gamju for avoiding fight, because the grabbing could also, if you are in a close contact, it could also be a way to avoid fight because the other person is trying to disengage and you are holding. So the referee may not give a Gamju for grabbing, but give it for avoidance. So if you are avoiding, the referee will give you a Gamju for that, because even if you are in a clenched position, so you must be smart to know this. So the next one, avoid or delaying the match. avoiding the match by turning your back and moving away or crouching. So some people, they do this. I've seen this in a couple of events, and we don't look back. Like, we don't avoid seeing this. So the moment you see this, we give a gamju. When somebody wants to kick and then you crouch, if you do that, it's a penalty already. So even though you are trying to dodge in a way, like, I don't know, let me explain by using apkubi, like you bend like in an apkubi, it's a low stance already and it's really dangerous. So in the other, what I just, it just skipped my mind, the special sports, the para ahead, the para. When you're doing the para, if you do this, it's called dangerous fight, like dangerous game. So you cannot crouch because the opponent is coming and it could be really dangerous too. So avoiding the match also, when you turn with your back, it is better you turn and then engage with a kick. But the moment you turn and you take another step forward, then it means you're avoiding the fight. At this point, the referee stops quickly to give you a penalty. So I just explained Gamjo will be given when this has been taken out. That is why I struck this out. It's been taken out of the rules. So the rules has been updated. So this is the new rules now. You must stay to fight. The next one is the instant video replay, kicking to the head or face, Now the coach can request a kick to the head that is face, which is not scored by the PSS. We all know this. And the review jury will only consider contact, not impact. So you must also know this. So I don't want to talk much of this because we already know this. For instant video replay, when a coach requests for an instant video request, the video jury will verify if an authorized technique. Now, this is another thing the coaches must know and the player must also understand. What the video review jury will be checking is whether the proper what to use for that, but you should understand, like, if you're using your foot to hit to the head, let it be not your ankle. So hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, please.
Okay. I just need to know that I need to be sure that I'm not talking to myself. So if the impact of your foot touches the head, not is also making they cheated you or they didn't see the kick properly and that. So an example is a center referee gives a gamju. So another thing you must understand, that if the center referee gives a gamju before the action, so for example, the center referee gives gamju for grabbing, there was a kick already, but there was also a penalty offense, a gamju offense. So the center referee gives gamju for grabbing and the coach requests a kick to the head. The video jury sees the grab clearly in the video and the kick hits the head. The request will automatically be rejected because the center referee has given the gamju for grabbing. So because these two actions are related, kicking to the head, and then the referee has already done what he or she ought to do. But in a case, I'm just giving this as an expo. In a case the center referee didn't give a gamju for grabbing, the coach may request for the head kick and it will be accepted if it really touches. So don't confuse. First off, wait for the action to finish. Like the person kicks to the head and then the referee does call you and they separate, the both parties separated, and then the referee does sock. As soon as the referee is doing sock, make sure the coach should raise up the card, or the athlete may remind the coach to raise the card to request for this. Otherwise, if the referee gives a gamju, there is no need doing that. Otherwise, your card will be seized. So I just want to quickly rush this. The second exam, the center referee gives a gamble for grabbing, which is followed by a kick to the head, which is not scored. Okay. Coach request is invalid, and the gamble and the award a kick to the coach request is invalidated. Sorry for the error. Invalidated. The gamble and award a kick to the head. Now the third one is the request is valid. That is, if the request is valid, request because the action are connected. So I just explained what I have just written here. So the next one, in the event that the turning kick to the head does not score, both contestants falls. Now on this thing, this is the criteria. The referee gives a wave of sign. Now, I hope this is very, very critical and you need to pay attention to this. In the event that the turning kick, which one party has scored, does not score, but both parties fall down. Now, the referee does a wave of sign. The coach requests for IVR because he feels that the kick touched the head. So what the request is accepted. The gamble for the other opponent must be given. So you must know this, because if you feel like you did a turning kick and both of you fall down and the referee did a wave of sign, remind your coach that your foot touched the head, and once the review jury confirms that the foot touched the head and awards the 5 point or 4 points, whether to the body or to the head, make sure after adding the point, the referee must be reminded to give a gamble to the other opponent for falling down. So this must be done, otherwise you lose a point. Now, I would like to explain this. I would like to explain this coach's guide for IVR. Now, one of the things you must know is the punch identification error, which is, I wanted to show it by slide so that you will understand one after another, but unfortunately I cannot do this.
Slideshow.
Yes, I'm trying to
Yeah, you
do
can
that.
just click on slideshow.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that. Yes. This. Sorry. Yes. So because I need to do this so I can explain one after another. So punch identification, you must understand this. When a punch comes in, like when two people punches at the same time, the judges, you cannot expect the judges to score this point because both of them may not be sure who scored rightly. So the other person may just be punching to the arm and the other person may be punching to the chest. So because you are not sure, for us as referees, the rule says do not push. Do not push. So we allow it go. So in order for you to make a request for this point, for this punch identification, you must be sure that two judges pushed. Now, on the screen of the scoreboard, you must know which is judge 1 and which is judge 2. You must see that both the judge 1 and judge 2 push for the punching. So one may punch a bit slow and the other one may punch maybe 1 second after. So you can raise to request for this because they are related. Second criteria is when somebody pushes for a punch and the other person pushes for a technical point. So you can also raise that a referee, one of the referees, one of the judges made a mistake and pushed for a punch, a technical this thing. So you can ask for punch identification. And then another one is when one person, when the both of them push, A and B push, they push and both of them push for red and the other one pushes for blue, for chunk, and the other one pushes for hung. You must identify this. The moment you are able to identify that judge 1 and judge 2, they point for different colors, then you can raise your card to to remind the referee to get your point. So this is valid. So The next one is additional point, which is technical. Whether for an additional point, point for a punch, you can ask for that, like for the error. And once the punch identification is different, then additional points for either a GAMDU that was not recorded, or sometimes when the computer operator forgets, because sometimes they get carried away by the matches, and then when the referee calls Chong GAMDU, the operator forgets in seconds, because it could happen to anybody who is the operator, because sometimes they get overwhelmed by the whole thing. So it is your own duty as a coach, or as a athlete, to remind your coach that a point or a GAMDU was not given, or something like that. So you must add that additional point. And the additional point could also be technical, 2 points. 2 points. Like you did a dichagi, when you are doing a lot of kicks, and somebody turns and kicks and it scores. Sometimes the judges may not be fast to push, so you must remind for additional point, which is the technical point. So for the headshot, we already know this, we have already talked about it. GAMDU invalidation of any GAMDU and point restored. So these are related. You gave a GAMDU for kicking after Kalu, for instance. If the person kicks after Kalu, you must remind the referee that 2 points was kicked when the person kicked after Kalu. So the referee must do a video review in your case, and then if it's correct, they invalidate, and then everything will be back to normal. Or if somebody kicks outside the boundary line and you give the person GAMDU for kicking after out of the boundary line, you can remind the referee that the person kicked from outside the boundary line. So if the person kicked out of the boundary line, the point must be invalidated. So then this is for your own person. Then for your opponent, you can ask, these are the things, you must take this, you must keep this. These are what you can request for GAMDU and related points, like falling down. Now, when somebody falls down, of course, you can ask, like the one I used for the turning kick, both of you fall down and the referee does a wave off sign, and then one person requests for a turning kick, you must add the point, because these two are connected. Falling down and the point, they are connected. Also crossing the boundary line, you can ask that, you can stop the match and say the person steps out of the boundary line, because sometimes the referee may forget. And then attacking after Kalu, also attacking a falling opponent. This you must remind the referee that the opponent has done all these offenses. Then invalidation of an additional point. Now you know this, maybe probably a point has been pushed before and the other coach asks for an additional 2. You can request that, no, the point has been added before and they should remove it, which you should know. Now, this point, this other one is for yourself, my fighter. Link point. When a GAMDU is invalidated and the points have not been restored, restore points as they are scored before GAMDU. So, sometimes the referee gets confused. Maybe you kick, there was a clash and there was a kick before, and the referee says Kalu and you kick again. You know that there was a kick before the Kalu and after the Kalu. So if you gave a GAMDU for kicking after Kalu, it is important that the referee, the coach of that particular athlete, reminds the referee that, because the referee may want to invalidate because the kicks were too fast. So it is important that you remind the referee that, no, the point came before the after Kalu, so that your point stays, but the GAMDU for the Kalu, kicking after Kalu, could be put. So you must understand this. And then invalidation of points for the other person. If once the person receives a GAMDU, the person kicks after Kalu or kicks out of the boundary line or kicks, by the virtue of the penalty. So you must always remind the referee after giving a GAMDU that the point must be removed. It must be invalidated. You must remind the referee like that with your request card. And this particular one is for both parties, like both of them. You can request for yourself and request for anybody can request for this. Both of them can request time, like when the time is running. Technical issues like phantom points, you must remember, because this actually brings me back to the what happened at the last National Sport Festival, where there was a phantom point issue and it could not be resolved. And after watching the video, we discovered that it was a phantom point issue and all that. So it could have just been resolved if somebody had noticed that it was a phantom point. If the coaches knew better, they could have understood that it was a phantom point, and all that could have just happened was for them to take out the points after watching the video and they continue with the match, rather than asking them to come the next day to restart the match, which was not proper. So I hope that is understood. Then for the weigh-in, of course, we all know that the general weigh-in takes place on a day before the competition. The weighing-in is done in one test, like you do it once and it cannot be repeated. Now, another weighing is carried out within the time limit granted by the referees, like for any fighter who is not to the required weight. So it's just for this is just for a technical this thing. It doesn't concern you, but I just thought I should remind you just to put that in. Then random weighing, we all know that random weighing will be done, of course, the following day. Now it's 1 hour before the event, no longer 2 hours. It's 1 hour before the event, before the start of the match. So random weighing will be done, and the participants who pass the general weighing, you must first pass the general weighing, must present themselves the next day for the random weighing before the start of the competition. If the fighter is absent, he will be disqualified immediately. So there is no going about, trying to negotiate with this. The random weighing will not concern categories of heavyweights, because of course they are heavyweights. So we cannot do that for them. So the random weighing is just below the heavyweights and must be completed at least 30 minutes before the competition. So we start 1 hour before the competition and must be completed 30 minutes before the competition. And then this is the criteria for doing the random weighing. So for a number less than 4, we don't select any number. For a number greater than 4 to 8, so we select only 2 people randomly. The computer is going to generate that. Between 9 to 16, 4 players will be selected for random weighing. Between 17 and 32 players, we have 6 people. 6 players will be selected randomly for that. And if it's above 32, you have to check the 20% of the total amount of that number. So so this is just participants who pass the general weighing must be. So we have already talked about this, and I hope you understood all this. Thank you very much. And if you have any question, I can start taking in your questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Master Toselin. That was very so the very first question is that, can we please beg you to allow us share this amazing presentation with our athletes through the Niger Taekwondo channel?
Of course, yeah. You can do
Thank
that.
you so much, because it will be helpful for people to still be able to go home and study it properly and share widely to all people participating.
Yeah, it's very
So
important.
we have Ike Odili, your hand is up. We'll allow you to speak, and then Masato Salim will answer your question.
Okay.
Ike, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Santos, and also Master Tosdalin. I for the case of you mentioned something of who gets Ganju first, and also the case of where we have 2 fighters with the same point and superior techniques or so. Now, I would have typed the question, but I feel like if I should explain it to be much more understandable. In a situation whereby we have 5-5, like the blue has 5, while red has 5, and let's say blue did Dufrigi, which was 5 points, while the red did Jutegi, 4 points, and one Gamju.
Can I answer your question?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Now, can you see my screen? Okay, I've disconnected that. But did you remember the criteria for superiority? The first criteria is total number scored by turning kick or spinning kick. Understood?
Okay.
Yeah. So if you want to weigh the criteria of turning kick, which one is bigger, 5 or 4?
5.
So Gamju has nothing to do with this.
Okay. That's
except the
that is
both of
clear.
them are equal. If the both of them are equal, 5-5 or 4-4, then you go to the next one, which is the high value technique. The person who did more of body kicks or punches before Gamju. Understood?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What if okay now and this takes me to the second criteria or the second scenario. Second scenario now in the situation whereby the two opponents scored 7-7, like they have 7-7 points. One kick to the head, the other on the same thing. They both had 1-1 kick to the head. Then the second one, the both of them had Dolochegi to the tongue. That's 5-5.
Yeah.
Then one had two Gamju, while the other had punch. But no, one had two Gamju, the other one had 1 punch and one Gamju.
It still brings us to the superiority criteria, high value technique. The first criteria of superiority criteria, that's why I don't want you guys, I don't know if you guys were taking pictures of the slides. That was why I did that, because so you could have a pictorial, let me try to share it again so you can see that. So you could have a pictorial ideology of this, like you could have the memory in your head. You could see it. So if you have the criteria, which is the superiority, you know that the first criteria is the total points scored by turning kick. If this particular one does not work, which means none of them scored, or both of them scored and it's still equal, you go to the next one, which is the high value technique, the head, body, and the punch. Now you talked about 7-7 and this, and one person has two Gamju and one has a punch, right?
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
What is greater? Punch or Gamju?
The punch is greater. The punch is
So it
greater.
falls under the high value technique.
Okay.
Do you understand?
So where does yes, I understand that one. But where does the who gets which the first to get Gamju applies? Like the case of any which of the opponent gets the Gamju first? Like,
yes, it still falls under it. After the high value technique is from 3 to 2 to 1, then Gamju. Do you understand? Because once one person gets a Gamju, automatically the other person has one. You understand?
Okay.
So the Gamju falls under the high value technique.
Okay. Now, let's assume both of them had two Gamju each.
Okay.
And irrespective of who gets the Gamju first, will the first to get Gamju supersede the numbers of registered picks?
No. If everything is draw, I just said it. If everything is draw, right? Two Gamju, it doesn't matter who gets it first or not. That is not registered in the computer. If the high value techniques does not work, the next thing that works is the registered hits. And that is why KPMP or Deidu or whoever is people on in this trying to develop this system, they want the decision of matches to be by the athletes, not by the coaches. They are trying to reduce any error. And that is why it must be decided by the athletes. So if the high value techniques is still equal, the next thing that you go to is the register hit. So the register hit will be determined by the athlete, right? Now, I now
Yes.
said again that if the register hits are equal, like 2-2, 3-3, or so, if they are equal, you go to superiority, and the superiority, we have the criteria, which is the aggressive match management, and the rest. So you
Thank you
you
very much.
go
I think
with
my
this,
question is
you
clear.
understand? Is that understood now?
Yes, I understand
Yeah.
very clearly. Thank
Yes,
you very much,
yes.
Mr.
So
Toscali.
we must understand this so that we're not going to be punching all the referees and like, oh, you were cheated or this. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, IK. Thank you, Master Postolin. Do we have any further questions? I think most of the questions in the Q&A at the time, in some way, Master Postolin has already answered them. But I mean, I don't know if I should repeat them because she has already mentioned all these things at some point during her presentation. Tofumi had asked if my opponent raises leg, for instance, for a jab, and I raise above his waist to cancel the attack, would I be penalized?
Repeat that
Um,
again, please. Repeat that again,
if my
please.
opponent raise his leg, for instance, to jab me, and I raise my own above his waist to cancel the attack, would I be penalized?
No, it cannot, because from our own point of view, it's we have to be discerning in our decision making. So we have to see from our own point of view if what you're doing is intentionally to impede the other opponent's attack. So from the referee's point of view, both of you are raising your legs, both of you are trying yourself, you're trying to, for as long as the legs are clashing and it's not obvious that, because if you did it once and you repeat the second time again, maybe you may get a penalty for that. That means you are not trying to attack, you are only trying to stop the other opponent's attack. So it's not in the rule per se, but it's like the referees is from the referee's discretion.
Okay, thank you so much. There was another question. I know you already responded to it in a way, but just to, say it again. Someone said, is there on anything like unofficial weigh-in? And how many trials will an athlete have?
Unofficial weighing,
Yes.
yeah, unofficial weighing is not done by us, but what it's done by in every standard international competition I've been to, they will keep the weighings. The officials go to check this weighing. We have to test both, and we make sure nothing is there is no malfunctioning from both, like it's equal. Then there is a stipulated time for official weighing. Now, before this official weighing, the athletes may go in, may have access to it, to weigh, to check their weight and all that, to check. But once the official weighing starts, you may not be allowed to come in to do that again.
Thank you very much. That was our response as well, but just wanted them players to hear it from a professional as well.
Okay.
Um, so do we have any further questions from any players? Because we also are careful of how long we'll keep Masato Salim here. Any further questions from anyone, please type or raise your hand. So I think we don't have anything else. If we do, we'll also share the questions with Masato Salim to respond. Um, and we're very grateful that we are going to have access to those slides. So there's not going to be a situation of not remembering what she said. Would share, everybody can go back. You can share it with your teammates, your coaches. Please share that document as far as possible. We'll put it on all our social media and things as well, so that everyone can see it and learn from it before the event. We're trying to see that, when we say 4 p.m. is final, we are able to make it. So we want to reduce unnecessary,
Stuff you can type the
protest.
slide. Yes, because one of the if you notice that even with the international referees, we don't usually post anything that is being done, in the inside. You will never see
Yeah,
any
that makes
referee
sense.
coming to post, because this is our own way of protecting the referees and also protecting ourselves. Because whatever we have shared, of course, is from the rule book, but whatever the projection we are trying to make, just like this slide, was created by someone. So we don't want to like refer like, oh, somebody said, but within ourselves, we can always share within ourselves, no problem. But let it not
Exactly.
exceed going out. If you need to put it out, you can type it out, but not
Exactly.
like
Type it out in the
and
written format.
yeah,
Yes, not like a
exactly.
document.
Yeah,
No, no,
exactly.
the for this one is just on the Nigeria Taekwondo channel. Then for
Mm,
social media, we'll just type the logic. So there's another question
yes,
for you, Master T.
no
What's the
problem.
best way for me to alert my coach to react to a situation?
Okay, so while you're fighting, you make your hand, don't talk. Just, I don't know how to describe it because you can't see me, but you know the way you tell somebody, come, 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 the way flex your wrist, you understand, just to show that, you want to do something or you want to give a signal, and signals just do. But while you are doing so, try to also communicate with your opponent, because you can't afford to stop the match and look, otherwise you'll be penalized for avoiding the match. So what you can do is give your signal, your hand signal to your coach, and then while trying to also move back, be tactical about it while you're trying to move back to kick or to just make anything. So it also brings me back to, if you need to make the referee notice any of your gadgets losing or is out, keep fighting, but keep showing your leg, but move away. Let it not seem like you are impeding the other person's attack. You want to move away, then showing that your hand gloves or whatever is out, and you need to fix it. I hope that is answered.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Before I move to the next question, I have one of my own that I wanted you to address. And this is a case of at what point is an athlete going to be given gam jam for dissent in the sense that they speak? What are the things you can say? Can you talk at all as an athlete? What are the things that will get you a gam jam um, for bad conduct from a referee, which was, usually normal before? Because there are some things that used to be normal to us before that you now get gam jam for. Can you please address some of those things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, first rule, you can never speak. Yeah. Okay. I don't think I got the last part because it was
No, okay, so I was
um
saying there are some of
okay,
the
can you hear me now?
things. Yeah, I'm saying some of the things that we used to be normal before, like you could talk in a fight, for example. Now,
Yeah.
I think there are some gam jams for that. So, what are the things, bad conduct from player and coach, that can get them punished? Because even coaches can get a player to suffer. So, please help us with those.
Yeah. First off, you don't even speak during the match. Don't speak whatsoever. If you feel like communicating, you can do that by bodily reaction. Like, this is a communication between an athlete with the coach. Body language is allowed. It's okay. You can just quickly give, like, probably raise your card to protest, do something. But for an athlete, you don't speak. The moment you speak, whether what you're saying makes sense or not, you'll be penalized. You don't speak. So the only time you can speak is after cardio, because after cardio means the time has stopped. So anything that happens after cardio cannot be counted as a penalty because it's after. But during the fight, you cannot. But then on the part of the coach, if the coach um, is backing up the athlete, coaching the athlete, and that, you have to do it in a very gentle manner, and don't be too aggressive and on the top of your voice and all that, because when you do that, it's the referee will caution you at first, because we want to have a very good catching environment, attractive environment. And because we are trying to promote martial arts, we don't want to be seen as being aggressive and rude and not following all the old tenets that we have always been talking about. So the referee will caution the coach, sit down, like, stay quiet, and okay, just stay quiet. If you do it the second time, you'll be penalized for misconduct. Another way you can be penalized for misconduct is when you try to cheat. You try to cheat in a way by you know taking out your mouthpiece. Maybe first round you had your mouthpiece because of course the referee will check. Maybe the second time the referee was not smart enough to check, and then you just come into the mat, without a mouthpiece. You'll be penalized. Once the referee discover, will penalize you for misconduct, and then you have to go and get the mouthpiece. Another thing is delaying the match. Is when you know that you are supposed to come with your mouthpiece and you intentionally forget it, like you intentionally leave it somewhere, and then they will give you waiting time to go and look for it, because on a good day you are supposed to have everything together, and then we the penalty for misconduct.
Yes, thank you so much. So I have a question online now, which is saying, can a player
Hello.
get two? Can a player? Can you hear me, Masato Salim?
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
So someone is asking, can a player get two or more gam jams at a go? And how is this possible? What kind of situation can lead to that?
Hello. I don't know what's happening.
Can you hear me now? Hello, Masati.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Ah, fantastic. So someone is asking, we have like three questions there, but let me ask the first one. Can a player get two or more gam jams at a go, like at an instance based on an action? And how is that possible? What kind of situation can that be possible?
Okay, hello. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear
Okay, okay,
us?
okay. Yeah, I'm back. Sorry for the disconnection.
No worries. So the question was, can someone get two gam jams or more at at the same situation or during the same action? And how can that be possible? What kind of situation can that happen?
Oh, yes. There are two instances for misconduct and for kicking after Kalyu. These are the two instances where you can get two Gamju. So kicking after Kalyu for misconduct, you did something, you're giving a Gamju, like kicking a falling opponent. You understand, like kicking a falling opponent. You I think for pretending injury, sorry, pretending injury, like where you have to pretend that you are injured or something, like you received a kick, a valid kick, you went down, and then you started wasting time, and something that you could just get over with immediately, and then you wasted time and you came up after doing a video replay and discovering that the kick was actually valid. Then you can receive a Gamju for falling down, and then you receive a second Gamju for misconduct, because the pretending injury is misconduct. Then the second scenario is kicking after Kalio. Like if the referee stops Kalio, the referee stopped the Kalio because he or she wanted to give a Gamju for something, for an offense, whether for grabbing, okay? So let's assume the referee was given Gamju for grabbing, and the referee does call you, and then you kick after that. The referee may give you Gamju for grabbing first, and then give you a second Gamju for kicking after Kalyu. So these scenarios, yes, you can
Yeah,
get
I'm very excited that that question was asked because sometimes our referees and our players miss this. You
yeah.
can get two gam jams. There's no rule
You can't
that
even play around that because it will be too
yeah.
obvious. It will be too obvious. Yeah.
Yes. So another question says, if I'm injured but it's not obvious, like a broken nose, say I have muscle pull, how can I call the attention of the referee? I mean, I think Tosalina has responded to this already.
No, I didn't respond to that injury part.
Okay. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's the same question. Two people asking the same question.
Okay.
If I have sustained an injury while in a fight and I'm still on my feet,
Mm,
what's the best to do in this case? The other person said if I'm injured, but it's not obvious,
no.
say like I have
Okay.
muscle pull, how do I call attention of the referee without it looking like I'm trying to act?
No, well, I want to talk from two ends. I will talk as a referee and I will also talk as a player. The first thing you could do is to try to kick, because either way you are going to get a penalty. Something must give up for something, otherwise you want to quick the fight. So as from the athlete's perspective, you could try to kick and then you hold that place that is paining you, like, because of course everybody who sees it will know that probably a muscle pull or something. Of course, the referee will immediately give a keshi, a cardio, and give a keshi for for the doctor to check or something. But then again, for us as referees, what we can only bank on is when we see bleeding, like blood, because we cannot tell if you're pretending or it's true. We are not feeling your body. So the only way is you have to do that. Call the judge, the referee. Now, don't fall down though, because if you fall down, you get to Gambius. So don't fall down. It's funny, but that is the only way you can recover. Otherwise, you will just keep pushing to finish the fight. So when they do a video replay and they see that nothing has happened, no bleeding, nothing, because the doctor will give a feedback to the referee, and that at this point, I'm only trying to be practical with you. You might get a gamble for pretending injury, but at least not falling down. But at least you have recovered. That is one. So the other way is from the referee perspective. We cannot stop any fight. We cannot, even if you are having a muscle pull or anything. It's none of our business, because we cannot ascertain if you are pretending or you are telling the truth. So we can, if until we see blood, when we see the blood, we see you bleed, then we can now say, okay, cardio, then we call the doctor, they treat you, and that then we can continue with you.
Yes,
Hello?
that's very helpful.
Yeah.
That's very helpful. There was one question, um, and we see this happen a lot. Someone is asking, is it advisable to contest a referee's call, say for a wrong point? So I believe you are talking about a wrong gam jam. But I also would add a second question. Or I mean, I know the answer in my head, but I see that people want to contest the things that the referees have gone to discuss already and come back. Like
So,
Yes, Master Tostalin, over to you.
yeah, for instance, I would like to have scenarios in my head, because I don't want to assume for the person what the person may be asking. So I just
Yeah,
wanted
so
to.
whoever asked that question, please retype your examples while Master Tostalin is addressing the other part, which is sometimes referees have discussed something
Mhm.
and then someone still says, I want to protest that thing again.
Now, excuse me, let's not what I'm teaching right now, it's not Nigeria scenarios. No. So we are not discussing. Referee don't discuss. It's the video replay that sees
True,
everything.
true.
So what I'm teaching is standard, like it's international standard. I don't want to narrow it down to our local style of handling competition. So that we take that thought out of our head if we really need to go far. Now,
Very true.
for hand signals, of course, sometimes we make mistakes. We are not human. We are not robots. We are humans. So sometimes, in split seconds, you want to make different decisions. Sometimes somebody could fall down in front of you, and you could not, like, at that point. Once the person comes up, you forget immediately whether it's chunk or for hung at that point. So it happens. it happens. So, but in the case of a wrong hand signal, somebody gives a ganju for stepping out of a boundary line instead of giving for grabbing. Of course, the coach can raise the card. My athlete didn't grab, because if they check the video, it will be so obvious that the athlete did not grab. Of course, the review jury has seen what had happened. But if the referee, because it's also on our own part that you could correct it immediately, like immediately, I gave a ganju for grabbing instead of a ganju for falling down. So, but because there is no signal for falling down, you must do stand up first, then you give a ganju for falling down. Understood? So, but if you fell down and I say stand up, I gave a ganju for grabbing instead of stand up and I give just a normal ganju for falling down, then the coach can request that my athlete did not fall down, or my athlete did not grab, or nothing, or didn't step out of the boundary line, or something like that. Of course, you can protest that. You can protest that, because
Thank you. Thank
otherwise
you.
you'll be losing a point. Yes.
Thank you so much. So many questions are just flying in. So let me give you back-to-back questions. One person
Sorry,
said,
before I go on, please, I'm reading Bright Colade. Please don't ask this question. No, don't ask this question. It's too, no. A seconder cannot request for a change of referee. It's never done anywhere. It's only in Nigeria that we see things happening. It's never done anywhere in the world. So let's not bring scenarios that are not true. Let's not bring them,
okay.
So I'm giving
So
world
so
class
yeah.
just in lecture here.
So it's impossible for anybody to say this referee is not, I don't want this one.
No,
No.
you cannot do
Please,
that.
everyone, keep it in mind. You cannot request.
You cannot.
Thankfully, Master Tosalin is, of course, in charge of officiating and the planning of anything in relation to officiating at this
So
event.
it's the reason why, sorry to call, it's the reason why it's important that even the referees must always update themselves, because if any referee so festival which everybody was very aware of, it's the calling them back to come and replay that match the next day was never supposed to be, never ever supposed to be. So it was totally wrong, and even WT would not even approve of that if they have heard about it. Like, they will sanction the organizers and everybody involved in that place. So what could have happened in such kind of scenario is um um appeal for a sanction, like appeal to review the match and appeal to check and get those who are very the expertise to check the match and make the decision on the match. And if it's on the fault of the referees and any judge, and that they will be sanctioned. I'm telling you, the referees will be sanctioned. Some of the
Mm.
things most of these coaches and athletes don't see on the outside, international, I'm talking about international scenes. Most things you guys don't see on the outside, we face it in the inside. Like, if you make any athlete lose just by 1 point by your own silly mistake, I mean silly mistake, you are out. You are out. Your referee life is ruined. That is the end. But of course,
Mm.
there are human errors, human factors, that could, but it's not intentional. Like,
Yeah.
if it was just a mistake that was not intentional, but it was an obvious, you are out. Your referee
Wow.
life is just finished. Yes. But it's
Wow.
something we need to now start putting into practice in Nigeria, so that even the referees will sit up. We don't just want any
Yes.
referee coming because of money, or coming because they just want to come and officiate, or feeling like because they are referees, they make decisions on someone's life. No, you cannot keep doing that. And that is why they keep WT keep improving, keep promoting, and keep advertising the updates of their rules. Like, you need to do these rules. You need to know it for yourself. Yeah.
No, I'm so glad that you're saying this, because I'm sure many of the athletes are happy to hear it. Many athletes um, have worked really hard and sometimes had one, you know, indiscretional
Of course.
mistake, throw away
Exactly.
those pain away. And
Yeah.
just building on what you said about festival at the time, I wanted you to just touch on when am I allowed to protest something? At what point can I no longer, you know, protest something, even if I was right, but I protested at this point? When can I, and when am I allowed to?
When you can protest immediately, the action happens immediately. You protest, okay? You once the action has finished and probably the referee had made a decision, immediately protest. But of course, your protest will be in writing, and you are paying some penalties for the protest
No,
to be
no,
carried on,
no.
and that
Sorry, I mean, like,
during the match.
when can I request? Yes, sorry, during the match.
You know your
How
rules
long do I?
already. Like I have
Yeah,
gone through the coach's rules. As an athlete
yeah.
or as a coach, you must request, you must know what is right and what is wrong. Like if something has gone wrong, you use your card immediately, like, no, that was not the correct decision. And they do a video replay. You know what should be requested and what is not or what should not be requested, of course. You know.
So
So
what time frame do I have to make that complaint within the fight? How
yes,
many seconds?
of course, when you are making this decision within 5 seconds,
Wow.
nothing more than 5 seconds. If it's more than 5 seconds, for instance, Chunk says, "Oh, it's to the head," going to do a video replay, you now discover that okay, no, you are now seeing as the hung coach, you now saw that no, it's not to the head, no, he grabbed whatever. Then you now come to request the card will be seized immediately. No request
Hmm.
will be entertained. Yes.
Please, very important, everybody. 5
So
seconds is when you can request, even
5
if you
seconds.
are correct. If
Yeah.
it has passed that time, you can't.
Yeah.
Ibrahim Idris is asking, let's
Okay.
say a referee gives a wrong hand signal for Gamjo, and
Mm-hmm.
then I protest and say, this was not a crime committed by my player. But let us also assume that indeed my player committed a crime, but the ref gave the wrong hand signal.
Mm-hmm.
Would my gam jam still be given or will it be taken off?
So
How is that situation settled?
so like I said earlier, when a referee gives a ganjo immediately, and gives a wrong hand signal, wait at least 1 or 2 seconds to see if the referee will immediately correct it. As soon as the referee is doing that, you can quickly raise your card and stop the match. My athlete didn't do that. You understand? And you must give the reason. You don't, because I'm talking from the side of the coach. My athlete did not push. My athlete did not push, so no gamju. You understand? You must say it, but don't go and say my athlete did not push but grabbed, because you are killing yourself. You understand? So don't say that. But so I'm trying to like stand in as a coach. My athlete did not push because the signal the referee gave at the time was pushing, but you knew that your athlete grabbed. So just say, referee, call the referee and be on your feet. Don't sit to call referee. No referee will entertain any of call if you are seated. So stand up
Yeah.
and say referee and be on your feet. My athlete did not push. So no Gamju. Gamju invalidates Gamju. So that's all. And so the review jury will watch. Any other thing that happens before or after, since the referee didn't correct the hand signal, of course it will be accepted. It will be
So
accepted.
I have a follow-up question to this.
Yes.
Let's say I am now the opposite coach whose
Mm.
player should be getting a point, but the referee made a wrong signal. Can I then say, okay, okay, even if you didn't give this my opponent that one that was, can you now give him the correct cam jam? Can I now protest as the opposite coach?
No, repeat again.
So let us say I am Chong, my opponent is Hong.
Mm-hmm.
My opponent maybe pushes my player out of
The
the
boundary line.
mat, the
Mm-hmm.
boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, he pushes and he kicks my player. So my player, I mean, he pushes my player out of the boundary line, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the
Mm-hmm.
referee gives my opponent the wrong hand signal for
Signal.
that gam
Okay.
jam. And so the opponent then protests that that's not what my player didn't do that. And so
Mm-hmm.
it is checked and that gam jam is taken off. Can I
Mm-hmm.
then protest and say, even if that has happened, I want
Mm-hmm.
you to now give me a gam jam for the correct thing, which is pushing my player out of the mat.
Yes, you can, but within how many seconds? 5 seconds. Because you
Okay.
saw when the referee gave the hand signal, and you saw when the referee was about to do kesok. That means you already
Yeah.
accepted. You already
Yeah, that
accepted
makes
it.
sense.
So if they have watched a video, you cannot go back and say the video was wrong. You didn't know what the other person asked. You understand? You didn't know what the other coach had asked. So you cannot go and start correcting what has just been rectified. So it's like fighting the video review jury that what you did was wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have there's a question here and I would like to respond to it. It says,
Mm.
talking about referee, what happens if I do not have confidence in the fairness of a particular referee due to personal issues beforehand? Unfortunately, the thing is that for that, also then should not have registered for our competition, because if we have
Exactly. Yeah.
confidence in a referee that we
Yeah.
have brought there, um, then we think that referee can do it. So
Yeah.
if you're confident enough to register and pay, then you feel free to also stand
Mm-hmm.
with the referee who we offer to you
Mm-hmm.
for the event.
Yeah, exactly. I think that answers the question because I don't need to
Yeah.
talk more about that. You need to start trusting your referees because as much as we try to encourage the athletes to do this, we are also trying to push the referee to do the right thing. If you misbehave, you will be walked away. Like I said, I've seen a couple of referees being sent straight back to the airport, like straight immediate
Mm.
from World Championship. I won't call names, but they are Olympic referees. Some of them are
Wow.
world championship referees, world referees. So mistake could happen, but not silly mistakes. Not silly mistakes that are obvious that you could rectify. Like you could change a thing. Like let's say for instance, like we usually say, don't give unnecessary gambles, and then you see two people clenching, rather than saying Kalio, let them separate and Kesok, you are now using the opportunity because you had a bad feeling. You now gave Gamju to another person because why didn't you now give to the other one too?
Mm.
So for that, it doesn't carry any water. There is no trustworthiness in that action,
Yeah. Yeah.
so there is no fairness, like so to say. So that's just it.
So there's this question here. I mean, it's
Mhm.
find it very interesting. It says, if a coach throws in a towel, does
Mhm.
that end the round? Does it say I have given up this round, or does it say I've given up the fight?
The match.
So
The match,
match.
because you
Anything that
can't
makes
throw
you throw your
you,
towel.
you, you can't throw a towel and come back for round two. It's like saying somebody that has been knocked down and they count out, you've been
Yeah.
knocked out, then they knock you out, that the rule says 1 month you have to stay out of competition.
Yeah.
You understand? Then you now want to come back, like the way we used to do wuru wuru here
Yeah.
in Nigeria. So I want to take out all this standard of Nigerian standard out in the bush. I've thrown it away. So now I'm bringing the international
Yeah.
standard here. You can't do that. Once you have thrown it over, that means you've withdrawn.
Yeah.
You've
You're
withdrawn
done.
because we will record it in this thing, but it's not referee's decision. It's withdrawal. You withdrew from the fight. You are no longer fighting. That is what throwing a towel means. You've withdrawn from the
Yeah.
fight. Yeah.
So there's a question here which I would also just respond to not take it too far. It says the rule about kicking the back of the head in a clinch.
Mm.
What if it's an anchagi that goes to the side of the head? I think that your question answers itself because
Exactly what I was about to say. You have already said in a clinch. So
your
unclenching
question
means
has
grabbing.
yeah your question has already responded to everything that matters here. You've already
Mhm.
so it's already a foul. After a technical knockout, Ectofumi is asking that after a technical knockout or a knockout, why do referees stop us from sympathizing with or helping the opponent?
No,
I
you
think
cannot
it's
be
had to do
allowed
with
in.
first aid,
Yeah.
but
First
please,
aid,
Tosalim,
yeah.
go ahead.
You cannot, nobody will be allowed to touch except the doctor. We are only expecting the doctor because um, the injury may be very severe that we may not want any other person to increase the injury. Like
Mhm,
let's say
mhm.
for instance, broken bone or shift of shoulder
Concussion.
or something like that. So we are talking about first aid here and someone's life. So it's not what
Yes.
we want everybody to be part of. Like, that's why the referee must control the court at the time. So we are not saying you shouldn't sympathize. You can sympathize after the person has gone out of the mat, but as long as the match, we are still on the mat, the referee is in charge, and you must respect the referee's decision at that moment.
Yeah, for those of you who were in Mina when there was this first aid training coordinated by Niger Taekwondo, you remember they said, sometimes even moving the person during that first aid
Exactly.
period might be what will even destroy the person completely.
Exactly.
So don't just
Exactly.
except your medical personnel. Ama Lukman is asking, how are the 5 seconds counted? Is it on the board or actual real time
Don't check
counting?
the count in your head, though.
Yeah, I
Just count
mean,
in your head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Count within 5. They didn't say 5 seconds. Within or within. So as soon as that action had happened, start, just be on your feet immediately. Once you're on your feet, now another thing you need to do is be on your feet and do referee. You understand? Because you want the referee to do something before they carry on. Now, after the referee must have done that action, maybe that action may even make you go back to your seat, like sit back, because that was what you were trying to call the referee for. But it's always better as soon as that action has taken place, be at alert before the 5 second elapses. So
yeah, that's very helpful. And I think that with that, we have come to the end of the Q&A. I think no one can say that Masati didn't stay up with all athletes up till 10:30 p.m.
yes,
to
I'm
make
glad.
sure
I'm really glad.
to make
I'm really
sure that
glad.
we don't also have
Yeah.
lateness in our event. Remember that we have a final by 4 p.m. we're trying to work towards, and the live stream time cannot change. So we don't want a situation where one fight will take 20 minutes because of 20 times we're raising our card. That's why she made our time to make sure she explains everything so that all the decisions that her team makes, everyone here would understand what's happening. And really appreciate the time you made, Mr. T, as well. Yeah, I mean, we don't take it for granted. Um, very, very
Yeah,
grateful
thank
to
you
have
very
you here.
much. I'm really happy also. I'm really happy. Yeah, thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
And I have to leave right now. Have a good night, everybody.
Yes, thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining. We'll hand over to Abiodun to just round off the rest of the conversation on accommodation. Thank you, Master T. So Abiodun is just going to um, give a few updates on the accommodation angle of this. I mean, what's the updates that we have, and of course there'll be running updates, more updates to come over the next few days as well.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Toltalin. Thank you, Santos. Very quickly, we have some information on accommodation. At the moment, there's a particular accommodation arrangement available. It's a local sports hostel, about 10 minutes away from the competition venue, and a vehicle will be provided to convey athletes that are accommodated in this particular hostel to the venue. The accommodation has a kitchen or a bar for buying food and drinks and probably watching TV or something. Then there's an open field within the uh, area for training. The accommodation has shared toilets, and so that means that athletes do not have access to, each room does not have access to a personal toilet. So the rooms would have to share toilets. For each room, there is a maximum number of 3 persons that will be allowed in each room. The costs uh, per room per day is 6,000 naira only, and there are very limited number of rooms available. So it's going to be treated on a first come, first served basis. This arrangement is for the Nigerian athletes, as um, for the international athletes, some arrangements are in place for them, and they have been communicated on these arrangements already. So we advise that you book ahead and you book immediately, because a limited number of slots will be treated on a first come, first served basis. After the number of slots have been exhausted, there are no other alternatives at the moment until if further information on accommodation, on other opportunities close to the venue arises. So by then, more details would be dropped on that. So the process for applying at the moment will be that each head of team or team manager would send an email expressing interest on the accommodation to info@nigertaekwondo.org. I'll call the email address again, info@nigertaekwondo.org. So each team head should send an expression of interest on the accommodation to our email, stating the number of athletes, the number of rooms, and especially the agenda. So if you have, let's say, 7 athletes, for example, so you'd mention that you are registering or you want accommodation for 7 athletes, which automatically mean 3 rooms, because there's a maximum of 3 per room. And please state whether they are males or females, and especially their details. So please state their names, their gender, and then the number of rooms. So we'll check through, and if it is in line with our arrangements and the slots have not been exhausted already, you will receive an approval email containing the account details to make payment and a deadline. We advise that you stick to the deadline, because so many people would be on the waiting list for this limited accommodation. So if you pay within the deadline, then you have secured the accommodation. Else, it will be transferred to the next team on the waiting list. I repeat, we have very limited number of rooms available, and we advise that immediately you receive the account details, you should make payment. There might be other options of hotels around the stadium for some particular price range that would provide information on in the next couple of days or weeks, as soon as we have made more findings and we are sure of the exact amounts. Would communicate this, but at the moment, the one available is what we have just given now, and we advise that you follow the procedure that has been outlined here, so that you can get some rooms for your team members. Thank you very much. So with that, yeah.
Thank you very much, Abiodun. I think that we've taken way longer than we planned to, but I also understand that this was necessary. Um, we would get back as regards a few other things. If there are any other questions, please share them now in Q&A for Abiodun and I to respond, and then for the next 5 minutes, so that we can round up by 10:40. Um, we would reach out and regard volunteers because I understand that someone has asked about that. Of course, we would love to have taekwondo volunteers, and the 6K is per room, not per athlete. 6K for a room that will have 3 people in it. So that's almost like saying 2,000 per night for an athlete. But I also know that there are limited slots. I don't think it's even up to 80 slots. So it would be good to, reach out to the team early. So, I mean, with this in mind, I would thank you guys for joining the meeting. Abedo, happy to have you round off.
Yeah, thank you so much. So thank you everyone for staying through the meeting, the webinar till this time. We planned to end at 9:30 and we've gone more than 1 hour. And that's, shows how we all care about making our event a success, you know. So I really thank everyone for staying up to this time. We thank our resource person, Mahato Zalin, for making our time out of a very busy schedule to be part of this. We thank the members of the Nigeria Taekwondo Advancement Initiative for their thoughts, their actions, and for their time in putting all this together. Once again, we thank you all for participating. And we have less than 30 days to go. We'll begin our countdown very soon. And some more sumptuous information would be rolled out as we approach D-Day. Thank you once more, and do have a very good night rest.
100. Thank you, guys. 100. Paris Saint-Germain.